Boot it up, don't crash today. Wi-Fi's moody, that's okay. Coffee's loading, brain still lagged. Luna's laughing, techies tag. We're logging in with Luna and Techie. Tech talk's funny and slightly sketchy. Glitches, giggles, updates to an events. Logging in, brought to you. System ready, slightly unstable. You're logging in, 444 boredom not found. You're logging in, best show around.
Here we go for another episode. Logging in. Yay.
Yay.
Yay. So, I got nothing.
Well, we already discussed this.
They don't know.
I know.
We have to let them...
So we couldn't, I don't know, you couldn't really find any, like, real tech thing this week, but...
The tech news stories are just like, I don't even know. Like, I mean, again, a hacker uses AI to commit large-scale theft. Like, okay, cool, we've...
That's, like, every day right now.
Right.
So, what we decided to kind of, like, because it's been at the top of our minds to just talk about, like, the current events right now and how it relates to tech, which is kind of what we talk about anyway. But, like, there's just been, like, a whole, like, wave of violence this week.
A ton of violence.
Particularly where we live. And it's been very interesting. So...
I'm going to let you run it, because normally I run the show, and, like, this is more your wheelhouse than mine.
Well, it's just, we've just sort of been in processing mode, and we thought we would, like, somehow discuss this in relationship to technology, because unfortunately I think a lot of people are relating to this at the moment. So we live, like, 30 minutes from Brown University in Rhode Island, and we've both spent a fair amount of time out there, particularly me. I grew up, like, in that area, and, you know, when I was a teenager, I was, like, always on that street where the shooting happened a few days ago. So, I know, like, you know, these kinds of incidents have been happening across the country for the past several years, which is, you know, horrible. But for it to happen out here is really not very normal. So everybody's kind of shaken up and... You know, it's been really interesting. Even we're kind of in our own little bubble, but, you know, we also, both of us, were living in Boston at the time of the marathon bombing in 2013. It was like 4 months or so before we got married, and I was, like, in the city the day that happened. I mean, I was in my apartment. That was, like, the 1 year that I lived there that I didn't happen to go out to, you know,
of all times,
to watch the marathon, because I was, like, making a model of my wedding dress or something, and...
I was at work.
Right. And so, you know, I, like, heard a whole, like, crazy amount of sirens, and then, like, I think I got a call from my mom or something, being like, are you at home or whatever. So anyway, like, you know, because of all that, and, you know, the days after that, you know, I was also still working in that area, and, you know, kind of having to navigate this really strange experience of, you know, taking the T, like the subway, and, you know, walking around the city when they didn't know who did it or where they were or anything. It was like everything was this kind of, like, strange... It had this, like, strange, like, energetic haze to it, you know, where there were, like, police officers kind of at all the exits to all the train stations, and, you know, everybody was kind of on edge. And it feels a little bit like that right now, so it's a little bit surreal for us because as of today, they still haven't figured out who did this thing at Brown. They thought they figured it out, and then it sounds like they realized it wasn't the right person. It sounds like there was a kind of similar incident today in Brookline in Boston, you know, with a professor who was, I think he was shot. I don't know.
I have to look it up because you just told me about this, and I'm just like, that's kind of spooky because we literally dated around there.
Right. It was, like, right next to a park we used to hang out. So we're in, like, the twilight zone right now. But he was also, it sounds like he was an engineering professor at MIT. So, you know, the incident at Brown was in an engineering building. So I have no idea at this point if there's any relation between both of those incidents. you know, I'm not gonna like try to spread theories or anything like that because I really don't know anything about it. But between all that and then, you know, we celebrate Hanukkah and, you know, there was an anti-Semitic attack in Australia. Like, was that Saturday night? I think.
I think so. I can't. It's all a blur.
No, it's been a blur, and you know, it's definitely it's been interesting because it's all affected also our experience of Hanukkah this year, particularly ours because, you know, we've been having to, you know, kind of weigh like, well, what celebrations do we go to? I mean, we kind of tend to do things on our own, but like,
Where do we feel safe?
right, like, you know, where we live, we're not really in a, you know, Jewish community, so we, you know, we don't really tend to be involved in a whole lot, but, you know, for holidays we try to kind of just go around a little bit everywhere, you know, and introduce our kids to a bunch of different areas. So, you know, we were kind of like weighing, okay, like, you know, most things were happening on Sunday, like right after this thing, you know, like what do we go to, what do we not go to, you know, and then there were some things I was considering going to this week in Providence, like right around the corner from Brown, and, you know, I haven't been in direct contact with the Jewish community over there, you know, in the last several days or anything, but, you know, I imagine it's a little bit crazy over there right now.
It feels like they're broken because the other thing, kind of technology-wise, you have to explain the whole incident took place on Saturday.
Right, like that's, yeah, so, you know, for us it was like, so we do not use technology on Saturday because it's a Jewish Sabbath. Some people do, but we are the types who don't. So
yeah, so basically from Friday sundown,
right, to Saturday sundown.
Well, Saturday 3 stars,
right.
but
Well, it's about 25 hours.
Yeah.
So we don't use technology. So we kind of like opened up our computers, you know, a little bit after sundown Saturday night, and we were just like, what? You know, all this stuff had happened. You know, the incident at Brown was on Saturday afternoon, so, you know, and that area is right on top of the Jewish community. The religious Jewish community, so of course, like, people, you know, probably didn't have any kind of technology on them. I don't know if
they didn't have phones on them. Definitely not.
Sometimes when these situations happen, you know, somebody kind of gets the message to everybody, so you know what's going on. But like, you know, we weren't there, obviously, and so there's been this kind of like, again, like a haze energy, like just this. Well, like, what do you do with all of this?
Well, the thing is like Saturday night, I would literally see people from the Jewish community that happened to be religious that they were writing that they had no access to certain family members, which is kind of concerning. But at the same time, we don't know what happened. We don't know if it was a case where they were then on the street walking, because everybody walks. They don't drive.
Right.
And so wherever they're walking, and then all of a sudden this all happens, and then did they end up at somebody's house? Because people go and they spend the day sometimes, they'll go to lunch at other people's houses and stuff like that. So is it a case where they just were not removing themselves from the house but they had no technology, so they had no way to communicate? There's so many layers on this thing.
Right.
Maybe you can go and explain my train of thought in a better manner.
I don't know. It's just, it's like, again, I'm interested, you know, in discussing this in the context of technology, you know, in, you know, the 2013 to now, right? Like the marathon bombing to now. You know, fortunately, we haven't had a whole lot of these, like, kind of big incidents out here since then. There have been, like, a handful. But, you know, back then it was, like, a matter of listening to the radio for updates. I mean, at least I was very low-tech. You know, I am low-tech, but, you know, it was interesting. It was a matter of, you know, listening to the radio, getting messages from coworkers, you know, what's going on, and, you know, kind of, you know, we didn't have any kind of, like, you know, I was a teacher at that time, so I didn't have any kind of, like, school-wide or anything technology system to, like, update each other on, you know, what was happening. I pretty much, like, got a call from, you know, the other teacher in my classroom that morning being like, hey, don't go to work, did you see the news, you know? It's very different from, you know, what it's like now, where everybody's got all these things popping up on their phone, you know, all day telling you exactly what's happening.
There's notifications happening every second.
Right.
And
It's overwhelming, but
you just have to
I
know
think
what
of, like,
notification
back
to pay
then-
attention to.
I remember back then, like, listening to, police scanners. I don't remember, like, I don't remember
Yeah,
if
we
you,
did that.
you came over to hang out with me
Yeah.
somewhere that week.
Yeah.
You weren't there that day, but somewhere that week when everything was locked down, I think you came over.
Yeah, it basically came over and we were just listening to police scanners, and it was just every second there was more and more information being given out, but it was just really tough to listen to.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that was so eerie about that time, which, differs from this situation, although I don't know what Providence is like right now. We haven't driven through there the last few days,
Kind of avoiding the area for obvious reasons.
Right, but, in Boston back then, there were, helicopters above our heads, It was, it really was very intense. And my apartment was on the top floor of, a 6-story building or something like that, so... it was right above my head all the time, and when they said don't go outside, it really felt really you probably really shouldn't go outside because everything was so close together.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know what you don't know. It was really, really eerie. And then for months afterwards, we walked a lot out there. That's what you do, or what you did anyway. I don't know what people do now. And they were just, these crazy helicopters, for months afterwards, right above our heads.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. I'm just looking through stories, and it's I'm seeing something. A brother of Texas man shot at Hanukkah celebration, says doctors are expecting him to make it. So, but that was at Bondi Beach. Okay,
Right,
so that's the same one.
It's the same thing.
But that's interesting that it's Australia, it's funny that the news story, whatever's making it out to be Texas, and I'm realizing, it's Australia.
I think that's the other interesting thing in this, though. We're dealing with these things in the age of AI.
Yeah.
So how much information it's getting through is accurate versus whatever the AI is computing, because I've heard a fair amount of this is what happened, and then them redacting it. Actually,
it's driving me crazy.
It really went this way. Are humans making those mistakes, or is AI? Where does that intersect? And are we at a point where that's going to start confusing people? If you're even in one of these incidents, God forbid, right?
You don't. Yeah.
I think even of you were talking about students at Brown, not all speaking enough English or something to really to really be able to follow directions, and then you get into them.
It was worse than that.
Right.
They thought that I was seeing some things or whatever. I'm trying to look online to try to find where it's from or whatever. But again, I don't even know if the internet gets scrubbed or what.
Right.
But some of them were not necessarily hiding from the shooter, but they were hiding from the police because they didn't want to deal with ICE.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. There's that, but, in a situation like that, let's say you are using AI or some translator. If you're in that situation, you're not going to be in a headspace, I wouldn't think, right? Take out your phone and start playing with AI, but, you know, what if you're trying to do that and follow some kind of directions and you're getting bad information? I don't know. If we're all in such a state of relying on AI for everything, critical thinking goes out the window.
Yeah.
And in a situation like that, there's just no critical thinking. You're in survival, fight or flight.
It's just amazing to me that what I'm trying to figure out is, are there no real tech stories this week because essentially there's just a lull because of the holidays? Or are these other things dominating the news so much that the people in the PR department literally said, you know what, it would be really, really poor of us to go and to come out with some type of announcement of some sort?
Yeah, I don't know. And again, we're not really, around so many people right now to really know what people are talking about. And And, we don't have a TV, so we're not really watching, constant news. I mean, we read articles, but that's different than what you're going to see in, like, a regular news cycle.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny. I was also a teacher, during that interval, like during the whole Sandy Hook thing. I was like still teaching during that time period, like working with little kids. So it's like I felt a lot of this just surrealness around all of this.
We'll probably talk more about it after the water cooler, I guess.
That's fine.
Ooh, it's break time. I'm Callie Girl, and the water cooler has logged in. I've got about 10 minutes before I have to pretend I wasn't just staring at the same email. So let's catch up on what happened while we were all minding our business. President Donald Trump said there would be a lot of damage done following the ISIS ambush in Syria that killed 2 U.S. soldiers and a civilian interpreter. Speaking at a White House Christmas reception, Trump said the attack was carried out by ISIS, not the Syrian government, and emphasized that the new Syrian president had fought alongside U.S. forces. The Department of Defense confirmed the attack was carried out by a single ISIS gunman. 2 additional Americans injured in the attack were released from the hospital. Iowa officials later confirmed that following soldiers were members of the state's National Guard, part of the deployment that began earlier this year in support of the U.S. mission to defeat ISIS. And as leaders overseas responded to violence abroad, another act of violence shocked a community much closer to home, this time on the other side of the world. At least 15 people were killed in a shooting at Sydney's Bondi Beach that targeted Australia's Jewish community during a Hanukkah gathering. Police declared the incident a terrorist attack, with dozens more injured and hospitalized. Authorities said the suspects were a father and son. The father was killed by police at the scene, while the son remained hospitalized in critical but stable condition and was expected to face charges. Officials later confirmed one of the suspects had been known to intelligence services, though not considered an immediate threat. The attack drew condemnation from leaders worldwide, with Australia's Prime Minister calling it an act of pure evil. And while authorities abroad investigated how this could happen, officials in the U.S. were dealing with a terrifying night on a college campus. A man in his 20s was taken into custody in connection with a shooting at Brown University that killed 2 people and injured 9 others. The attack happened during an economics exam review session, sending students into lockdown as police conducted a large-scale manhunt. The suspect was arrested hours later at a hotel in Rhode Island after investigators tracked a cell phone signal. 2 firearms were recovered from his room. As of the latest update, authorities had not announced a motive or formal charges, saying the investigation was still in its early stages. And while law enforcement worked through that investigation, lawmakers on Capitol Hill turned attention back to health care. House Republicans unveiled a health care package aimed at lowering costs, but notably left out an extension on Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies that are set to expire. The proposal focused on expanding association health plans, increasing transparency around prescription drug pricing, and funding cost-sharing reductions to lower premiums. Republican leadership said the bill addressed the real drivers of healthcare costs, while discussions continued behind the scenes about whether an amendment extending the ACA subsidies would be brought to a vote. And as healthcare remained unresolved, new polling offered a snapshot of how Americans were feeling about leadership overall. A new NBC News and SurveyMonkey poll found President Trump's approval rating remained underwater, with 42% approving and 58% disapproving. Support had softened even among Republicans aligned with the MAGA movement, with fewer respondents strongly approving of the president compared to earlier this year. The poll also showed a decline in the number of Republicans identifying primarily as MAGA supporters. When asked about top concerns, Americans cited the economy first, followed by threats to democracy and health care. And speaking of public trust, one family found itself trying to shut down speculation and bring a personal conversation offline. Erica Kirk announced she would meet privately with Candace Owens days after publicly asking Owens to stop spreading conspiracy theories about the murder of her husband, Charlie Kirk. In a post on X, Erica said the two agreed to pause all public discussions, live streams, and social media commentary until after their in-person meeting. The conversation is scheduled for the same day Turning Point USA had planned a live stream to address Owens' claims, which was also put on hold. Owens floated several unfounded theories about Kirk's death, including claims involving the U.S. military, foreign governments, and even Kirk's own colleagues. Some of those named pushed back and planned an event to debunk the claims, which now appears paused as well. And while that situation moved behind closed doors, another very public dispute unfolded, this one involving family, fame, and unresolved resentment. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle Reiner were found dead in their Los Angeles home on Sunday afternoon, according to multiple sources who spoke with People. Emergency calls were made to the Los Angeles Fire Department around 3:30 p.m., and first responders arrived to find a man and woman deceased. The couple was later identified as Rob and Michelle. Sources said they were discovered by their daughter, Romy. According to those same sources, the couple was killed by their son, Nick Reiner. Nick had previously spoken publicly about his long struggle with drug addiction, including a period when he was homeless. In a 2016 interview, he said his experiences inspired the semi-autobiographical film Being Charlie, which he co-wrote. Rob Reiner was a defining figure in American film and television. He rose to fame as Mike Stivic on All in the Family before directing a string of iconic films, including This Is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men. Authorities said the investigation is still ongoing. And while Hollywood mourned a legend, another institution faced scrutiny of a very different kind, this time in college sports. The University of Michigan confirmed that the staff member involved in an inappropriate relationship with former head football coach Sharon Moore remained employed even after Moore was fired for the cause. Moore had been dismissed earlier in the week after the university concluded he violated policy by engaging in a long-term inappropriate relationship with a staffer. Despite the fallout, the university said there had been no change to the employee's job status. The situation escalated when Moore was arrested days later on charges including home invasion, stalking, and breaking and entering. Authorities said Moore allegedly showed up at the staff member's home after she ended their relationship and sent repeated messages over several days. Moore, who is married with 3 children, was released on a $25,000 bond and placed under strict conditions including GPS monitoring, a mental health evaluation, and a no-contact order with a staff member. He was also ordered to surrender his passport and refrain from alcohol, drugs, and weapons. University officials said the investigation into the broader situation was ongoing, and Moore was scheduled to return to court in January. And finally, from off-field turmoil to an on-field blow that stunned the sports world, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes was ruled out for the season after tearing his ACL during a loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. Mahomes was injured late in the fourth quarter when his knee buckled on a scramble. He was helped off the field in visible pain, and the team later confirmed the diagnosis. The Chiefs said Mahomes and the organization were exploring surgical options, leaving questions about his recovery timeline heading into the new season. And that's what happened while we were all refilling our coffee and pretending not to refresh our inboxes. I'm Callie Girl, and this has been The Water Cooler. When there's more news, I'll log back in.
Okay, back from the water cooler.
Back from the water cooler.
That was fast.
So we were talking about the experience of teaching during Sandy Hook.
That's where you left off before we went on break.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess we've had some incidents like this out here in New England, but I don't know. I don't know how that compares to what it's like to be in other parts of the country.
I almost find this whole thing awkward because it's like when you first set out to do this, we're thinking about, okay, cool, this is going to be a way to demystify tech news stories that are happening out there. Little did I ever expect an episode like this.
Yeah, but I mean, I also think, like, you know, this week we've really just kind of been in a freeze mode. Like, no, really. I mean, last night I was just feeling so ungrounded. Like, I literally made myself a cup of tea out of roots, you know, root herb things. Just feeling like anything to kind of, like, tie myself down to earth.
Yeah. Well, we got 14 more minutes to fill, so...
No, I get that.
It's tough because I'm scouring Google, I'm scouring various news stories and stuff.
like,
I'm not seeing anything.
I guess my question is, you know, in this context, do people go to AI for news?
They will be?
But do they right now?
Well, I mean, I could tell you one... Okay,
Like,
I just realized one news story that's being buried.
Yeah.
I just remembered this because I saw the update information. I'm not seeing it reported, but ChatGPT ended up announcing that they added a new filter which allows you to shop on ChatGPT. That we can talk about.
Crazy.
Good. Okay. Cool. It's so funny.
But again, before we leave this topic,
Yeah.
you know, there's shopping on ChatGPT, but again, what about news on ChatGPT? Like, if, you know, I've never... Hi! Wow! Can you go build with that? Yeah.
I'm
So
going to ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, I've never actually used ChatGPT. I'm, like, really not into AI, so that's why I'm asking you.
Okay. So ChatGPT is saying you just need to type in what is the latest news on and then mention the topic.
Right, so but my question for you is, are people using ChatGPT to get their news?
I doubt it. But ChatGPT, because once again, the categories that ChatGPT has, which is create an image, deep research, shopping research, agent mode, add sources, study and learn, web search, and canvas.
But my other question is, like, are, you know, news agencies using ChatGPT for news? You know, like...
Oh, yeah, I imagine.
You know, I just think of...
No question.
You know, more and more articles these days are coming out with poor grammar, you know, and that, I don't know how much of that is people and how much of that is a robot, right? Like, there's that. You know, and I think of AI, you know, falling into various professions where, you know, many of which it probably shouldn't be, like lawyers and things like that, right?
Totally. And they get disbarred for it, too.
Right. So I just have to wonder how much that filters into news media.
We're going to do something stupid. I'm adding a prompt into ChatGPT using the search algorithm of give me the top 10 news from the last 24 hours with brief summaries and sources about technology. All right, I'm going to see what it comes up with. So it's searching right now. And it says the iPhone 7e and iPhone 18 Pro modem specs leaked online. Interesting. What a perfect time for that to leak right during all these other news stories, so that story gets completely buried. Meta upgraded their AI glasses with conversation-enhancing audio. Samsung rolled out a watch update for their Galaxy Watch. LG confirms new micro RGB TV. Let's see. Safety drives enterprise AI success. Amcor Technology stock slides.
So it's a lot of, like, already existing companies just sort of, like, doing little updates.
Right. There is nothing worth talking about.
Right, but I'm trying to figure out, you know, our mental fog, does that have to do with the area we live in? Or is kind of everybody across the country feeling a little bit of this? Because we're also, like, you know, experiencing this from a Jewish perspective.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of, like, flooded with, you know, stuff in our heads right now. And we're not even, you know, regularly, you know, in synagogue enough or something to kind of hear what the constant discussion is about this.
Right.
But, you know, from our little world, like, we're just kind of in stunned mode right now.
Yeah. But so is the news stories. I mean, it's like, normally it's so easy for me to go and just look around and be like, okay, cool, that's what all the tech people are talking about, let's move on. versus this where it's like I seriously came to you and it's basically like, Luna, there is nothing.
Right.
Like I can't make a radio show out of this. This is not even, there's nothing here. Which is like, thank goodness you have the ability to go and to step up and just be like, hey, let's talk about what's actually people are talking
I'm
about.
not paying attention to the tech stuff. I'm paying attention to the,
I get it.
non-tech stuff.
But I think that tells you something. If in the tech world or whatever, it's that kind of level of just issues that tells you everything.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's kind of coming to my mind, sorry to go back to like all the depressing news.
No, but that's your show.
Right.
It's your show.
I'm just saying, like, it's interesting too. We're in this era that wasn't such a thing in 2013, where these events happen and people go straight to their phones and record it, or like send it to TikTok. You were talking about that, or like I think even of hey baby, stop, wanna go play? I think even of experiencing anti-Semitic incidents when we used to live in Boston, and what that experience was like. Our only option was pretty much to like run to the the closest fire station or police station or wherever we were passing by, and like
who did nothing.
Right, they just ignored it. We had a guy who used to follow us, consistently to synagogue like every week. I think he had like a swastika tattooed on his head. And,
it was
listening to all kinds of stuff. Yeah, no, it was like one of these things where like, he would like scout us out and follow us.
Yeah, it was messed up.
It was really messed up. So, in where this world is at now, I know there are more like systems for reporting things like this, but I think of like other cultural groups, having similar sorts of incidents, and things go straight to TikTok or something, but other than that, they're not really addressed in any more of a productive manner than they used to be, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. And here's the messed up thing is like anytime you mention anything Jewish, anti-Semitic, etc., immediately, no matter what the subject is I'm eating a jelly donut. The only comment that you typically see is Free Palestine.
Right.
It's like, I just said I'm eating a jelly donut. I did not mention anything about.
That's a whole other political thing, and for the record, I don't know. Some Jewish people are not like. We're like neutral, I wouldn't say like completely neutral, but like the point is like, I don't see this stuff so black and white. I don't even want to get into arguments with people. Like, I just feel there's so much pain in the world right now from all sides.
We don't even have a right to vote.
What do you mean?
We're not Israeli. We don't have Israel citizenship. We don't have the right to vote.
Right.
It's just funny that people just go and they'll just be like...
They make basic assumptions without even understanding the context.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like, it's a different matter or whatever if you're trying to go and talk to somebody who actually has the right to vote. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to go and sway their vote with political discourse and discussion. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking to people that don't even have the right to vote, their vote would not be recognized. That would be a fraudulent vote.
Right. Well, we've definitely had people, come up to us different times, like, start bringing up these subjects and, like, expect us to go into a fight, and we just don't, We're
just like we don't know.
We just don't
we just
know,
literally, we just literally, like, we're not there.
Right, I don't
we don't know.
the right to, make any kinds of
statement.
Arguments, and I don't like to get into fights with people. It's such a complicated world, and again, like that brings me back to the ChatGPT and AI. Are these things contributing to public discourse on any of that, or somehow making people feel argumentative or something? Like, does ChatGPT show you what you want to see?
No.
So if you happen to be more on one side than the other, and it learns that about you, just like it's like learned about you that you're into technology, right?
Then
so if it learns about you that you know that you tend to be on more one side than the other, does it start giving you content that reflects that?
It's probably going to go more so based upon what the majority of people who use it want. So I'll give you an example. There was one point, and it's like I can't. The baby's holding a book right now, so it's tough for me to actually concentrate. But essentially, like there was a whole exercise where they had an AI system. I think it was on Twitter at the time, and essentially it got to the point where it started out sweet and kind as like this teenage girl, which then became this like hate-filled, spewing, Nazi, anti-Semitic rant that was coming out of the individual just based upon what they learned from interacting with other people. And they had to shut the whole experiment down.
It's sad.
Yeah. Like
But it basically means that like on that platform, because on ChatGPT, like you're gonna
well, that
get-
wasn't ChatGPT. That was a different platform.
Okay, but like let's say you're using ChatGPT, is it always neutral? Or you're saying it's based on like what the majority thinks?
It's based on what's taught, because if it goes and comes up with an answer and it literally asks the question, do you like this personality? Thumbs up, thumbs down. It literally asks you the question.
Right, but let's say there's like a, you know, a subject like, you know, the sky, okay?
Yeah,
Basic example.
yeah,
We know the sky is blue,
yep,
but you have a room of people where 9 out of 10 people think the sky is orange,
yep,
right?
yep.
Then does it start telling you that the sky is orange?
If you get
Because-
enough people to go and on there, to go and to tell it that it's wrong, that the sky is not blue, it's orange, that'll then teach it
You
that.
could have some serious skewing of information over time.
If you've got a large enough sample size,
But unfortunately, like I think that's kind of where the world's at right now. Is you have large sample sizes that are, you know, very much in one opinion or the other about a lot of subjects.
yet no, I mean, I'm sure it's just like, again, you could manipulate AI.
It feels very Orwellian. I wonder if they still read those books in school. I remember like
I doubt it.
No, for a handful of years when we were in school, like 1984 was required reading, and Fahrenheit 451, and you know all those kinds of books. And then there'd be a whole discussion of like the pros and cons of that kind of society and everything. And hey, put that.
No,
back.
but that's what I'm saying. People are literally coming up with all kinds of prompt manipulation systems, which is just,
Please stop, honey.
I don't know. It's just a very, very different way of thinking about things.
Prompt manipulation system. So people are trying to skew the AI.
All the time.
Yeah. That's really unfortunate, especially you know for the chunks of the population that really use it, you know, for their entire worldview. Hey, baby, please stop.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to look up, because I'm trying to see. Here we go. How I tricked ChatGPT into telling me lies. This was on ZDNet, reported May 15th, 2023.
2023.
Yep.
When? So you know we've been in time warp the last couple years, but when did ChatGPT start?
Let me get you that.
Because I don't remember.
Hold on. Well, when it got mainstream was a different story.
Right.
ChatGPT get developed. I'm just gonna see if I can get an answer. 2022 November 30th.
Interesting.
So that's when this all started. I guess
What am I
this.
doing now?
I guess that's where we're gonna have to end.
Yeah, but it's just it's a lot to think about. Hey,
Yeah.
stop that.
Yeah. So it's almost been almost 3 years.
And it's interesting because I think about the world, you know, in the context of everything else we're talking about.
No, it has been 3 years.
Yeah, but look, I'm just saying, like, in the context of everything we're talking about, the world has changed so dramatically. Like, I felt, you know, the time moving so fast and so chaotically, and, you know, that could just be our point in life, but hey, kiddo.
Anyway, that sound probably means that the baby's about to rip apart everything and we have to go. So we'll see what happens next episode. But at least we tried. Time to log out.
Okay.
Glitches, giggles, updates.
that's okay. Coffee's loading, brain still at Luna's a laughing time.